Welcome to the third installment of Power Hour limited edition series I am doing on the Mina Show featuring Lenny, where I power rank the entire NFL with the help of a guest. I sent a raven for this week's guest, and I got back a Baltimore fan and friend of the show, the mother of dragons herself, Mallory Rubin. Welcome back.
Mina, it's the honor of my life to be here with you. You're my favorite person in the world, as you know.
Well, Mal, how's Halo, your cat? I forgot. I should have asked.
Thank you for asking. Yeah, he's thriving.
Okay,
he's
good.
thriving. He's curious how Lenny is. Also, he's confused because the show says featuring Lenny right in the title, and yet I don't see Lenny.
The number one complaint I get in the comments. The other complaint I've been getting lately is, what's up with the Ravens hate? Because my first two guests, Ryan Clark, Kyle Brandt, thought the Ravens would go higher in this exercise, and they didn't fall a lot. They were still ranked near the top of the NFL, but they fell a little bit. So it's up to you how quickly you want to rectify that. Just to remind people, the way this works is for every spot, I pick two teams, and you pick the one that you feel deserves the spot. It's kind of a head-to-head situation. How are you feeling about that?
I'm thrilled. I can't wait to run through the league with you, and I can't wait to put the Ravens at number one.
Well, to put them at number one, I'd have to give you the choice.
Yeah, I know. And I assume that's part of why I'm here today, is because you've decided to change your top two.
You know what? F it. I'll give you the choice.
No, you don't have to.
Okay, I'm not going to, because I don't believe it. Because this is also a reflection of my beliefs. Although I am mixing up the teams a little bit, but I am not going to mix. I am sticking with the top two teams because not only do I feel
you
like
have the Chargers at 7. You were swayed by Kyle. That's the big adjustment today.
I really love the Chargers. I was not swayed by Kyle enough to put the Chargers near the top. I am sticking with the two Super Bowl teams. And this isn't just an honorary, they were in the Super Bowl. I genuinely believe these are the two best teams in the NFL. Mallory Rubin, do you want to divert from what the previous two guests have done, or are you going to stick with the Chiefs over the Niners? Those are your two choices.
Okay. A dismaying start to our journey here. No Ravens at the top after all. Shocking stuff. I will be going 3 for 3 here. I'm sticking with Ryan. I'm sticking with Kyle. I'm not picking the Niners. I'm picking the Chiefs. This is until Belichick and Brady give us a reason not to pick the Pats of our era, right?
Yeah,
like the Chiefs were so down throughout last season, and then they still won the Super Bowl. So it just feels like pick against them as the best team at your own peril. And as long as they still have Andy Reid, as long as they still have Patrick Mahomes, and by the way, they added the fastest player in the history of the combine. Mahomes now gets to throw to Xavier Worthy. Obviously, like, losing L'Jarius Sneed is a big deal. They kept Chris Jones. It's hard not to opt back into the Chiefs at the top, I think.
I had a chance on First Take. I want to say maybe it was the week after the Chiefs lost to or maybe it was, they were a little iffy in the beginning of the season. The wide receiver drops and errors, where I got to be the one person on the panel who was like, the Chiefs will be fine. The least brave take, but somehow
the courage to say it aloud.
I got to plant my flag as the Chiefs. And
now your steadfast faith has been rewarded with the addition of a 4-2-40.
I haven't been.
Congrats to you.
I'm pretty pumped about that.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Okay. Here's your first chance to pick the Ravens. Here
it
is. They are going up against the San Francisco 49ers. Will you take the Baltimore Ravens over, who, should be noted, kicked San Francisco's at the end of last season?
Annihilated them.
However, everybody has picked San Francisco over them for good reason.
I feel like it's pretty easy to talk myself into the Niners here. But I do feel that I'm here for one reason, and it's to pick the Ravens in second. Come on. I mean, what am I going to do? Spend the rest of my life regretting the time I came on Power Hour and didn't pick the Ravens in second?
She's back, baby. Make a case. Because there is a case to be made. I started it with the defeat.
One of the things that was lamentable about the last two conversations, which I broadly loved, was that inside of not picking the Ravens, slot after slot, was the acknowledgement that they were the best team in football last year. So unless I'm missing something about the premise of Power Hour, we're not necessarily necessarily saying, you talked a lot about how it's not about strength of schedule or like a prediction pod. It's about assessing the goodness, if I can quote my
That's
favorite prophet,
fully it.
you. Okay. And so, adhering to the rules of the exercise, I will be picking the team that was the best team in football last year, the Baltimore Ravens. You already noted they crushed the Niners. They dominated the Lions. They absolutely destroyed the Dolphins, dominated the Texans in the playoffs. I don't need to mention what happened after that. It's not relevant for the purposes of this conversation, nor do I know what that might even be, and we don't need to think about it. I've repressed it, and I won't bring that out and look at it again until I need to. Another year of offensive consistency under Monken. I'm not sure if you are aware of this, Mina. Gonna throw this out there. Maybe a new nugget. Lamar Jackson won the MVP last year and is a two-time MVP. Yeah. And he still plays quarterback for the Baltimore Ravens. Added Derrick Henry. I'm very, 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 very excited about the prospect of seeing a healthy Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely on the field together, what that tight end unit is going to look like. Now, of course, I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge one of the many things in life that binds us together, which is Mike McDonald. And that is huge.
Is it like your ex starts dating one of your friends and you wish them well publicly, but inside you're seething? You hate me. You hate him.
No, I could never root against you or my dude, Mike McDonald. Never. I want nothing but the best for you. And I like to see people I love thrive and succeed and then stew in my own misery. And I can keep those things separate. So
get to him.
I think that that's a loss that can't be understated, truly. But the franchise history of restocking and replacing from within, not only the players on the field, but like the brain trust gives me a lot of confidence. So I'm excited to see what Zach Orr does as DC. Obviously lost a lot of players, but I loved the Nate Wiggins pick. Roquan Smith is still here. And I would go into like the gauntlet of death with anyone who wanted to say that Kyle Hamilton wasn't one of the best players in the sport. Like he's God tier. So it's hard to argue against them at number 2. That's what I would posit.
Hard to argue against them. Okay. I love it. I love it. I suspect it won't take you long then to pick number 3 because it is the San Francisco 49ers. And I'm gonna bring the same team that I have bought, the team that almost probably have brought up before, team that almost beat them, but fell short, the Detroit Lions.
I'm going Niners. Yeah. I'm going to go Niners here.
You have to really. Okay. Here's where we got the Niners. We don't even, Yeah. Here's where I think it could get interesting. The Lions are still on the board.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to bring in a team that some believe could beat them in their own division. That's the Green Bay Packers.
Okay. Interesting.
I think this is tricky.
You love the Packers.
I do love the Packers. I like the Lions too. I'm
going to go Lions, but I won't be surprised if the Packers are in the Super Bowl. Sincerely. I wouldn't be shocked. Yeah. But I'm going to go with the Lions. Dan Campbell is one of those, like I would run through a 10-foot wide big brick wall for him. I think that the retention of Ben Johnson was one of the most important things that happened across the sport in the offseason. So it allows the Goffessance to continue unabated. What a thrill for Detroit fans. And in addition to everything on the field, right, Aiden Hutchinson continuing to emerge as like a top tier elite rusher, 101 quarterback pressures last season. It just, they have that intangible like it factor, right? It just feels like something special is happening there. And so I never like to bet against that.
If it was just a quarterback head-to-head.
Come on. Packers.
Okay. Well, the Packers stay on the board.
Okay.
And this is actually a really fun matchup in my mind because I think that they're kind of each other's mirror image in the AFC and the NFC. You know where I'm going.
Yeah, Texans.
Houston Texans. Because the Texans are the Packers of the AFC and the Packers are the Texans of the NFC in terms of like amazing young quarterback, great coach, good vibes. Like they're both, I think, probably the best vibes teams in the entire NFL.
Yeah. This is really hard. I'm going to go Texans, but this is a tricky one. This is a tough one. I do like, we were talking about House of the Dragon before we started recording. We were talking about, Damon and Aemon as foils. We love mirrors, right? So this feels like an appropriate pairing here. I'm going Texans. I don't think that the hype is overstated or too extreme. I don't think the breakthrough was a fluke. When you're ahead of schedule, I have the pleasure and privilege of being a Baltimore Orioles fan. And sometimes the breakthrough happens a little ahead of schedule, but that doesn't mean it's not real. That doesn't mean it's not sticky. I think if you were
Mm.
starting a franchise today and you had to pick from any head coach quarterback pairing across the league, I mean, D'Amico Ryans and CJ Stroud are at least in the conversation at like in the top
Yeah,
three, right?
100%.
So 5 feels like an appropriate spot for the team. And I think when you look at the defense, uh, having Will Anderson up front and Derek Stingley Jr. in the back, like it's the envy of the league for young defensive superstars. In terms of something like adding Stephon Diggs to a receiver core that already, features Nico Collins, I don't personally mind Diggs being on a reworked 1-year walk year. I actually think that's a good thing. Like if it doesn't work out, no harm, no foul. And maybe he comes in really frosty, looking to cash in on a big reset. It just feels like they have a lot going for them. And I think that Ryans and Stroud are as good as it gets right now.
Can't argue with that. The Packers remain on the board. Now, this is
Okay.
where it gets a little dicey. I think I could go in 4 or 5 different directions.
Mhm.
Um, I'm going to go with a quarterback, a team led by a quarterback who feels like he's been forgotten, he said, because he's been injured. And he reminded us of who he was at Vogue Fashion Week or whatever you
Yes,
call
he
that.
did.
Um,
Yeah.
this is a little higher. This is higher than I've been offering them before, but they're a
Yeah.
divisional opponent, so you know them very well. So you have, I think, either fear of them or not
Yes.
appropriately.
Yeah.
Packers versus Bengals.
Okay. So you've moved the Bengals up a little bit after the first 2
Yeah.
power hours, which, yeah.
Yeah.
I On the ranking that I made to prep for this, I had the Packers and the Bengals back to back. So I had
Ooh.
them clustered, and I had the Packers one ahead of the Bengals. So I think this is very close. I think this is an appropriate clustering. Matt LaFleur has moved into like cementing himself as one of those guys as he's going to figure it out at some point. And to watch what happened in the second half of the season with Jordan Love and with that offense building off of the beatdown of the Cowboys in the playoffs, it seems like often the news and like narratives and murmurs around a team in the offseason can be so odd and off, and it's fascinating to see whether it's from the team camp or Jordan Love's camp. Like any question about the contract, it's like, yeah, we're gonna figure it out, we're good, yeah, we're gonna figure it out, we're gonna keep doing
Yeah.
this together. Like it just seems positive. I'm just hyped as a football fan about the prospect of getting to watch Love and Christian Watson again this season. Adding Josh Jacobs to the run game there is exciting. What the Jeff Halfley
Yeah.
defense is going to look like coming from Boston College, switching to the 4-3 now that he's the DC there. It feels like we're going to see a little bit more focus on trying to disrupt up front, which is exciting. So I like what the Packers are doing. And the North is loaded. The
The
North
North
is
is
loaded.
loaded. I know. Between the Lions, speaking of the North, between the
Yeah.
Lions and the Packers, who would you say are the Starks of the NFL?
Oh
Who's Winterfell?
boy. I think it's got to be the Packers,
Wow, really?
right?
I could, yeah. Dan Campbell has
Wardens of the
like a,
North.
yeah,
It depends on if we're talking about just right now versus like franchise history.
historically, yeah,
But
right. Yeah, you think of them as right, like being on the kind of the outpost, the northern outpost of the NFL. Dan Campbell has like a more Game of Thronesy feel than Matt LaFleur and his manicured eyebrows. But okay, I think that's appropriate. I agree with you. I would have taken the Packers too.
yeah.
So I'm setting up a truly epic matchup, one we have seen play out. The Bengals versus the Buffalo Bills. I think this is tricky.
The Bills, I'm an enthusiast of your coverage. So one of the patterns that I've observed is that it seems like you feel that you are ever so slightly higher on the Bills
Yeah.
than the
I'm
bulk of
moving
the
off
viewing
of Patrick
public.
Mahomes is underrated island, and I'm claiming Josh Allen is underrated island. Really
Yeah.
going out on a limb with these elite quarterbacks here.
Yeah. So, okay. Perhaps this will be surprising because I just told you that the Packers and the Bengals were back to back on my ranking, which they are, but I had the Bills above
Bills
them
higher.
both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair.
So I'm going Bills. It felt like they were dead, hopeless, lifeless last year. And they just ripped off 5 in a row to end the regular season, won the first playoff game. It's like the kind of thing when you have a guy like Josh Allen that you can do. I think that moving on from Diggs is one of those things that at the surface level feels like this cataclysmic loss, but is the opposite ultimately. Like it just is a beneficial thing for the vibes and the flow of that
Addition by
team
subtraction kind of thing.
under Joe Brady, and like seeing how the Joe Brady offense and Brady and Allen working together can continue to build on what they started to unlock when he took over last season. Also, I love Kean Coleman. Like him falling into the second round was one of the shocks of the draft for me. I just found that bizarre as a college football enthusiast and as a wide receiver draft prospect enthusiast in particular. I thought that was strange. And he's in addition to being a very deft media presence who is just an instant icon. He's a great football player. So I'm excited to see how he moves in with Diggs and Gabe Davis gone. And, you know, if Matt Milano returns to health and to his level of past performance, I mean, obviously that's like a fascinating division, and there are a lot of interesting things to talk about with all of those teams. But I'm not ready to say that it's the end of the Bills era yet.
Media darling Kean Coleman, an endless fount of quotes this offseason, was asked about, he said he didn't want to go golfing with Josh Allen because Josh Allen is too good. And I'm paraphrasing, but he said, maybe we could just go throw rocks at a lake or something. To which I
respect
reply,
this.
Josh Allen would like throw that rock across the entire lake. Like, why would you make
Okay.
that your thing that
Maybe then, yeah, maybe there's a note on the let's do this instead suggestion, but the I'm not going to golf with Josh Allen part. This is like, I would never do a crossword head to head with you. Well, come on. Why invite defeat like that? Set yourself up to succeed. I would never.
Josh Allen skipping stones at the Pro Bowl. Make it happen. Okay. Bengals still on the board.
Yeah.
Here I'm going to go Eagles. Eagles, a lot of
This is easy.
change.
Bengals.
Oh, it's okay.
Bengals.
Wow. Okay.
Right? Right?
Other people have gone in different directions here. So is this more about your faith in Joe Burrow and whatnot,
Yeah.
or is it skepticism about the Eagles based on what we saw at the end of last season?
A little bit of a combination, I guess, but I more the former than the latter. I'll speak from my perspective as a Ravens fan. When Burrow is healthy and the Ravens have to play the Bengals, it's like one of the things that makes me feel like I want to curl into a ball and die heading into the game.
You're so
like, it's
good
the thing my dad
Joe
and I
Burrow.
text
The Ravens
about
have been
the most,
amazing against him.
but it fills me with fear.
Yeah.
Like you never know when he's going to rip off one of those 450-yard games. So, you know, the T. Higgins contract question marks and the way that's like hanging over things. The question about Burrow's health, obviously the defense was incredibly down last year. Like it's weird to maybe say with confidence. Yeah, Bengals at where are we? 7, 8?
8.
Bengals at 8. Yeah, Bengals at 8. But I don't know. Burrow is that kind of a difference maker if he's healthy. I also think that Jamar Chase has the ability, the talent, the skill, and we've seen it in the past, especially when he and Burrow can get into rhythm together game after game when they're both on the field, to be like a top 3, top 2 guy. So I'm going Bengals.
Yeah, I get it. Eagles. A lot of questions. We just did the NFC.
I work with so many Eagles fans. I feel like I'm incepted all the time with Eagles propaganda, but
you know,
scary stuff last year.
It's crazy how Eagles fans bounced back so quickly, though. Like I did this NFC East pod with Dave Hellman, and you know, I was like, Jalen Hurts really struggled against the blitz, and I don't know. At the end of last season, they were so despondent, and they are back. They're like the disrespect of Jalen Hurts. I'm like, wait, whoa.
I love Jalen Hurts.
I like him too, but all right, Eagles. I'm gonna do a different head-to-head from one that I did, I think, last time. And I'm going to introduce a team that fell in last week's episode, much to the anger of their notoriously chill fan base, the Miami Dolphins.
Okay.
Dolphins versus Eagles.
This is hard. Oh, man. I also had them back-to-back on my ranking, actually. I had one team ahead of both of them who we haven't gotten to yet. Perhaps a hot take and a controversial one. Eagles or Dolphins? All right, I'm gonna go Eagles. I do really like the Dolphins though. Like this is a kind of a head heart one. Like my gut here actually is to go Dolphins. I'm kind of talking myself out of it and into the Eagles. So I say that as a little bit of a caveat for the pick. I hear what you're saying about the Philly fans rallying, and I respect and admire that.
I get
do.
it.
The constitution of a Philly sports fan it's astonishing stuff.
Special breed.
I stand in awe, truly. That collapse at the end of last year, I feel like that's not the kind of thing that you can just move beyond. Like that's kind of like you need to sage the building, you know? It just like felt like some sort of supernatural event. I mean, it's not just that they were losing, it's that they ceased being competitive. So that feels like the kind of thing that no matter how much talent is on the roster, of which there is an abundance, hard to shake off, like the kind of thing that could linger. And so that's scary to me. That said, obviously there's a large reset here, like Vic Fangio coming in as defensive coordinator, Kellen Moore coming in as offensive coordinator, the reworking of the playbook. I'm really curious to see what Fangio does with the defense and how to like optimize the potential of all of that elite talent again. I loved the Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean picks. I thought that was fantastic. And, Hurts, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, now adding Saquon Barkley, like that's enviable skill position talent. So there's plenty to like with the Eagles roster, but that was also true last year. Like that's the thing. That wasn't really the question. And so something else was inhibiting and impeding their ability to maximize the output from that talent. Do you think they have pushed beyond with the reset, whatever that was?
I think a lot is going to come down to whether these coaching hires work out because, like you said, the offense was unbelievably talented last year. They just lost one of the best centers in the history of the sport. And then defensively, I do think defensively the personnel additions will help, but it's a lot. It ended very, very poorly. You could argue the same for the Dolphins, who remain here. Yeah. I was going to ask which Game of Thrones character Mike McDaniel reminds you of, but I feel like he is probably closer to a Game of Thrones podcaster than any other NFL coach. He could fit him right in.
Yeah. Loves to analyze the scheme. Has an incredible sneaker collection. Definitely a Thrones podcaster.
He's one of us. Okay, the Dolphins go up against the Dallas Cowboys for the 10 spot.
Dolphins.
Ooh. Okay, so that's, I think, the highest they've gone thus far. So Dolphins fans, rally.
I was tempted at 9. Yeah, I'm going Dolphins. I am like you and like so many football fans obsessed with the Mike McDaniel offense, and it's just like the genuine source of intrigue and anticipation and joy to see what the evolution will
be next.
Season over season, because like you never have cause to doubt that there will be something new and something that pushes the bounds of what someone else had previously conceived, which is just a thrill. It does feel like the late season collapse for the Dolphins, like for some of the other teams that we're talking about, it feels like a blip, right? This strange, odd thing that is kind of confounding and nobody really understands like how that could be. How could something like that happen to the Eagles, even though we can point to the actual explanations and reasons how, right? For the Dolphins, it's starting to feel like their signature, which is concerning. That's concerning, right? The late season collapse being your signature is concerning. But last year in particular, it felt like the disintegration of the quest in the final stretch was inextricable from the defensive injuries. Inextricable, right?
Yeah.
So
the defense was just ravaged by injuries at the end of the season.
Yeah. So like when are Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb returning? That's obviously a big question. They lost Christian Wilkins. So those are big questions. But the counterweights are also there, like drafting Chop Robinson, getting a full season of Jalen Ramsey, who seems already quite excited to be moving across the field again and deployed more freely in the Anthony Weaver defense. So I honestly wouldn't feel like comfortable picking the Dolphins much below 10, even though they're a team where a number of different outcomes feel in play. This feels like the appropriate spot to slot them based on the talent on the team.
I could see Jalen Ramsey having another elite season just to spite Vic Fangio, because he is one of the most motivated by spite players in the entire NFL. Really quickly, this is our top 10. You said you had a team above. Have I gotten to that team yet or no? You had a team. Okay. All right. The Cowboys remain on the board.
Yeah.
Was that team the New York Jets?
Yes.
Okay. Are you going to take them then over the Cowboys?
Definitely.
Woo! All
Yeah.
right.
Is that strange?
No, I had them literally next. That's why.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I had the Jets at like 9
We're at 11.
on my
That's
initial
not
list, so
crazy. Yeah. Not
this
crazy.
is about right.
Yeah.
You know, the question is an obvious one, right? Like, is Aaron Rodgers healthy? Is he going to be on the field? That's the question.
Not even
So,
we don't really have to that's it. It's kinda
yeah, like
it's
there
all
are
about health. There's
plenty
3
of teams.
players who have a history of injury, but if they're all healthy, this thing could really go.
Yeah, I mean, there are plenty of teams where like the outcome hinges on quarterback performance, but this one does feel most directly tied to is the quarterback on the field. I remain eager as a football fan to see Aaron Rodgers throw to Garrett Wilson, and I think the fact that Garrett Wilson has 4 and 3 touchdowns in his 2 pro seasons is uh
Such a good player
a
too.
scandal.
Yeah, I
Like,
know.
he's just so talented and they need to be able to optimize that. I really, really, really hope that they can this year. Sauce Gardner, good as it gets.
I love him.
Yeah,
I'm such a fan. He posted something really cool the other day. I mean, he seems like a great young kid.
yeah,
All
he's
right.
awesome.
I'm
Doing that for Sean
officially
Fantasy, Mina, for our guy. Had to get the Jets in the top 10 for Fenrock.
well, if this was first take, we would have spent a lot longer on Jets Cowboys, by the way, but it's not. We are moving. The Cowboys remain on the board.
Okay.
Okay, so there's like a cluster of teams here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna mix it up a little bit, and I'm gonna go Cowboys versus Rams.
Nice. Rams.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
Stephen A. Rubin. Cowboys are falling.
Oh
Can you give the answer in
no.
a
Oh,
Stephen
man.
A parlance?
Oh my god. Oh my god. I don't know if I a person who co-hosted a 4-hour pod yesterday, am capable of the takey 37-second soundbite. I'm not sure it's a skill I have. I really like the Rams. I really like the Rams. So this is a little bit less of a doubting the Cowboys take and more of a pro Rams take.
It feels like you're down the Cowboys, but it's fine. Keep going.
I thought that what Sean McVay did with the Rams last season was just one of the all-time displays of coaching aptitude and excellence.
He rules.
This is going to be one of the top offenses in the sport again. I mean, Stafford played like an MVP candidate for stretches of last season. You look at a guy like Puka, and it's not just that he had this incredible debut season and okay, breakout star, how exciting. It's what that tells us again and again and again about their scouting, their personnel development, the strength of the franchise. And that's the kind of thing that allows you to have confidence in a team sustaining success, right? So obviously, like a player like Aaron Donald retiring is not a small thing, and I that bears saying, certainly. But a guy like Kobe Turner coming off a really impressive rookie season, and I just think the Rams are a balanced squad with an elite offense and a elite coach. So this 12 feels right.
12. Adding insult to injury. I agree that their offense is going to be absolutely awesome. Cowboys are still here.
Okay.
Okay. So now we're kind of in the mid zone. We're entering
This
the
is
mid
a tricky spot
middle
here.
pack.
Yeah.
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 So I'm gonna go Cowboys versus Falcons.
Oh. Wow. Falcons.
Is that too high for the Falcons? Yeah.
Wow.
You're freaking me out here. Okay. I'm changing it.
Wow.
I'm changing it to Cowboys versus Bears. Let's go fun and exciting and young.
Oh my goodness. Interesting. Okay, I'm gonna go Cowboys. Weird energy from the Dallas Cowboys this offseason.
So bad.
The let's get it done. We can get it done with less. Jerry Jones campaign is just very strange. Very, 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 very strange. All that said, they've got CeeDee Lamb. They've got Dak Prescott. Trayvon Diggs, who I was about to curse. I know we're not supposed to curse. Then you'd have to beep it out. Who I love to watch coming back from injury, and other than after Myles Garrett, like Micah Parsons is the next defensive player that you would pick to build your team around. So plenty to like the Cowboys, despite where we've slotted them and what that might mean. That just the energy is odd right now around the Cowboys.
The
It's
vibes
very
are
weird.
bad. They're
Very
deteriorating.
weird.
I panic picked the Bears, so the Bears are here. Bears, Browns. Browns, I think, is a worthy opponent
Bears,
for the 14
Browns.
spot.
Yeah. Boy, Bears, Browns. Interesting. I'm gonna go Browns, I think. Yeah.
I mean,
I actually have these
this
teams back to back on my ranking as well. So this is interesting. I think it's hard not to believe broadly in the prospects of a team that was able to compete with Joe Flacco at quarterback last year. Right?
Yeah, it's a great roster.
Right?
It's a great defense. Scary.
Great roster.
Yeah.
Mina, they've got Myles Garrett.
Yeah. Is he the Vagar of the NFL? We were talking about who the Vagar is. Vagar, for those who do not watch Dragon, is the gigantic. I learned. You blew my mind. So I was. We're gonna have to speed up after this. I was kind of crapping on Vagar. I was like, Vagar, is he good or is he just big before the show? And then you did, that riddle that proves that people are sexist because it turns out the doctor's a woman. They're like, the doctor saved her life. How was that possible? It's a woman. You basically did that to me where you were like, she. And I was like, wow, never questioned Vagar. Always a Vagar fan. Not a system dragon. Vagar has always been an elite talent.
Vagar here since the conquest. Do you remember what, to answer your is Garrett Vagar question? You remember what Otto Hightower said in season 1 to Allison's? I'm not going to drop any like big season 2 recent spoilers, but it's been 2 years since the episode we're about to reference.
He said something about Vagar to her?
Yeah, after Aemond claimed Vagar, remember? He's like, this is off the dome, so I'm paraphrasing, but what that rogue Aemond has done in winning Vagar to our side, she's worth 1,000 times the price he paid.
Wow.
So yeah, feels like an appropriate comp. Are you team black or team green, Mina?
Literally everyone's team black, right? Who's team green?
Our pal Chris Ryan has recently come out on the Ringer Podcast Network as, and I quote,
"That's such
green
a
curious."
That's such a Chris thing. Chris is like, oh, Allison, she's just so funny. Like, what an intriguing character. I could
exactly. It's just like, these are the characters I want to spend time with, which I understand. But
in that case,
it does not mean that the throne was not usurped from the rightful ruler.
If Vagar is Myles Garrett, then spoiler if you didn't watch the last episode, I think that makes Joe Burrow Sunfire baby. I'm trying to think of who Myles Garrett has terrorized the most. Okay, we gotta move because of this Vagar tangent. 15. The Bears are still on the board. Now we're getting to a place where that feels appropriate. F it, I'm gonna bring in the Falcons again.
Okay, Falcons.
Bears, Falcons. This is where it gets weird.
Bears. Yeah, I think I'm slightly less high on the Falcons than you are.
We have yet to pick a team in the NFC South, by the way.
That feels totally reasonable to me.
Yeah, just reminding people.
That feels totally reasonable to me. With the Bears, the question I think is just like, is the hype too much too soon? Does it feel like we've shifted from how will they repair this sacred, cherished franchise into like, hey, are the Bears going to be like the team of the season? But they're darlings for a reason. I think another thing that we share is a deep and abiding enthusiasm for Rome Odunze. Like, obviously Caleb Williams is the headline driver, but Rome was my favorite player to watch in college football last year. Literally my favorite player to watch. So I'm thrilled about that pairing. And I think that DJ Moore has like officially moved into most underrated guy in the sport territory. What's fun about the Bears right now is you have this influx of youth and upside, but then you have like, I don't know, something like Keenan Allen joining the team. And you have this like veteran presence. I feel like that blend is often the driver of success. And like something like acquiring Montez Sweat last season, I mean, that was one of the moves of the year. So for that to keep bearing fruit now this season, I think will we look back at the end of the season and say we were all a little too like a year early believing that the Bears were going to break through? Maybe, but there's a lot of reason I think to stand behind that confidence.
I'll put it this way, simply put, they're one of the teams I'm most excited to watch. I'm just excited to watch them. Okay, Falcons. We're at 16. We're at the halfway point, and this is where I am
Okay.
going to bring in my Seattle Seahawks, coached by your ex, Mike McDonald. I think this is an appropriate matchup.
Oh, Seahawks. Yeah. Yeah. Seahawks.
Bird battle.
I love Mike McDonald. I genuinely think he's a genius. Genuinely. I'm just thrilled for you. I'm so jealous, but I'm thrilled for you.
I love it when people are nice about their exes. It's like such a green flag, honestly. If somebody's still friendly with their ex, or at least maybe not friendly because that can be a little weird, but speaks highly of them, like
Yeah. Well,
it's good quality.
it helps when
Ben,
you're
listen.
happy in your current relationship, right? I'm
Bingo.
feeling great about my Ravens.
Okay. Falcons still on the board. I'm gonna bring in the Chargers here. That Kyle Brandt, he would have put them in the top 10.
Yeah, you have him at like 17 here. He would have just
We're at
knocked that
17.
one right off.
What you got?
Oh man, this is tough actually.
Yeah, it's only getting harder, Mal.
Falcons. Yeah, this
Wait till we
area.
get to like Commanders Broncos.
Man,
Get ready.
boy. I might just bring in my husband, a deeply despondent Broncos fan, to guest pick that one, and he'll just weep into the mic for 30 seconds and then leave. I'll go Falcons, I think, here. Here's the thing about the Falcons. They're the team I think I'm experiencing the most dissonance with, because on the one hand, there aren't actually too many rosters where I love the skill position talent more.
You're fun.
Like Bijan, Drake London, Kyle Pitts. Yeah, they're electric. I just simply don't understand what happened this offseason. I just don't and to be clear, like I say this as a Penix enthusiast, a sincere Michael Penix enthusiast. Like I loved watching him at Washington. Like bringing on Cousins and then drafting Penix where they did, not just the confounding nature of what that means for the quarterback room and team building and the message you're sending, but then like what it meant for not addressing defensive areas of need at the top of the draft. I just remain like befuddled by that, but also really drawn to the skill they have on the roster. So that's why I said I'm of two minds with them. I guess that means this is maybe a reasonable place to slot them, actually.
I mean, we got them on top of the NFC South. Okay. Chargers still available. I think this is a good matchup. It's a rematch of a disastrous playoff game. Chargers Jags. The Jags are hard. Chargers.
The Jags are hard. The
Jags
are
for.
Yeah. They're a weird one. I'm gonna go Chargers here. I desperately hope. Of course, as a Ravens fan, like the rise of any other potential AFC power is always something to root against. But as a football fan, as Kyle Brandt's top 5 team, the Chargers. I love Kyle. I loved listening to him make the case for the Chargers. It was wonderful. It was honestly a deeply compelling argument that he made. I was like, nodding along. Oh, yeah, Harbaugh. Yeah, truly. As a football fan, I want the Chargers. I need the Chargers to build a competent team around Justin Herbert. Like the idea of this franchise squandering Herbert's career is an affront to all that is good and right in the sport. So Harbaugh coming in, I have no doubt that he's going to build the machine. I think the question is just, what's the Jesse Minter defense going to look like immediately, right? Yeah. Like bringing in your college coordinator.
That's on that side of the ball.
Yeah, so that's like a big question mark. And then I don't really think that Harbaugh building an offense around Herbert is a question mark. It's just a question of how quickly everything can lock into place and whether that success is immediate or there's a period of adjustment and acclimation. Yeah. And the Chargers are a team on the rise, maybe at the end of the season, certainly heading into next season. So I think this will be a good team under Harbaugh. I think it's just a question of when.
Jags face off for 19 with the Bucks, the division winner.
The Bucks. Jags, Bucks. Bucks. Right?
That's a great case. The Bucks, right? So
the Bucks. The Bucks.
Maybe.
Right.
I mean, I kind of running it back. Obviously,
Yeah.
David Dallas is gone, but
Yeah, I do
mm,
think I think Canales being with the Panthers now and Baker not having him there is a legit thing, like a real variable. I never really bought into the Bucks last year as like much more than a product of their division. And I know we're not supposed, so this is like an odd thing, because I know for the spirit of the exercise today, we're not really supposed to be thinking about division or who they're going to play and like what the road is going to look like in 2024. But the truth is that's like actually inextricable from thinking about whether they're going to be able to succeed, right? Because that division is like a mess. So I don't know. I'm excited to see Godwin like move back into the slot and use that way. Looking forward to that. Mike Evans, one of the joys of my offseason at the Ringer so far was listening to Sheil, Steven, and Austin do a wide receiver draft. And Steven Ruiz, our dear pal, spent the entire pod in a fit of astonishment that nobody was picking Mike Evans yet.
he's still so good. He's still
Yeah.
such a good football player.
Yeah.
Future Hall of Famer, but it's not like he would be a better Vagar. Is he just big or is he good? Like he is good. He's really, really good. I think that this is 19 is a totally appropriate place to put the Bucks. But the Jags have fallen. It's the Jags disrespect will be noted
I'm okay
by
with it.
Duval Nation. So they get a divisional head to head. This is where I'm going to
Okay.
introduce the
Yeah.
I'm going to call them the Bears of the AFC, the Indianapolis Colts.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I am picking the Colts.
Ooh. Okay,
This
now
one's
Duval
actually
Nation has a case. Yeah, you're
This
really...
one's actually not particularly close to me.
Woo!
I will not be surprised if the Jaguars outperform the Colts. I won't. But I don't know. I'm like a member of the Steichen Hive, Mina.
We call him Stike him on this pod. Shane Stike him.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. The way that he was able to like keep things, and I'm, obviously it's all relative, like, but relatively on track after the Richardson injury. Really excited for if Richardson, obviously there's been like some soreness in the offseason and he's working his way back, but if he's healthy and can stay healthy, like thinking about what Steichen can do with a healthy Anthony Richardson is pretty riveting to consider. It's been fun to hear like his teammates gush about him this offseason as they get more exposure to him. I also just love the Adonai Mitchell pick.
I like it
loved
too.
it.
So I have a confession to make, and you're going to suffer from this because people are going to look at the list and think it's your list, and it's your list is a product of the decisions I make. And I meant to mention this team about 4 teams ago, and then I just forgot. That's the Pittsburgh Steelers. So we're going Steelers versus Jags here. Who are you taking?
I have absolutely no. I will say, let the record state that. Because we're at what?
21.
We're at 21. So I had the Steelers a handful of spots higher than this on my personal list. So let the record state that. However, if Steelers fans think that this is where I slotted them because I'm a Ravens fan, that's fine with me.
I'm going to write my bad so that if
that
anyone
is
takes
fine
a
with me.
screenshot of this, they understand that we meant to have them a little bit higher. Okay.
I'm going Steelers over Jags. Yeah.
So the Jags are still here. The Jags are still here. That'd be a great team motto.
I can't make the case about the Jaguars than I can about the Steelers defense. Just period. Can't.
That's why the Steelers probably should have been higher than 21. I apologize to you Steelers fans.
The Russell Wilson, Justin Fields quarterback situation is that's the popcorn meme experience of the offseason for me. I just can't wait for camp. I just can't wait for training camp. It feels like it's going to generate some sort of inane headline every day. I'm thrilled.
It's going to be messy. Okay. Jags. I'm going to bring in a fun, feisty team.
Yep.
Scrappy, the scrappy Jonathan Gannons, the fighting Gannons, the Arizona Cardinals.
Yep.
Versus
Cardinals.
the Jags. Wow.
Yeah. I have the Cardinals one above the Jags on my ranking, and so I got to stick with that.
Yeah, stick with your board.
I have to.
That's good process.
Thank you. Yeah, I learned from the Baltimore Ravens,
Are you a Kyler fan?
Yeah, long time Kyler fan, dating back to when I thought he was going to be an all-star infielder in Major League Baseball.
Still good.
Seriously, like when pre-Ringer, I have like vivid memories of being in the Grantland office. So we're talking like it was like a decade ago, and just like crunching Kyler tape with Chris Ryan. Long time obsessive. Well, and I love Marvin Harrison, obviously.
Love him.
Thought Trey McBride was unbelievable last season. So yeah, the Cardinals. I think they're an exciting team. Obviously, that division is stacked.
All right. Jags, this feels like a good spot for the Raiders.
Jags.
Okay, finally. Jags hater. It's actually Jags hater is a good mountain to be on because their fan base, while I love them, is not loud and angry. And also there's like weird Trevor Lawrence backlash a lot. So this is actually a good you planted your flag on
But I don't feel that way about Trevor. So
yeah.
I don't want anyone to conflate where the Jags wound up here with me being a Trevor Lawrence doubter. I'm not.
Is the most Game of Thrones looking quarterback in the entire NFL right now. He's the
Do
one.
you think the particular shade is more like is it Lannister? Is it Targaryen? You know, the Targaryens in the canon, it's supposed to be more of like a silver.
He looks like a Lannister cousin who makes like one appearance and dies. Can afford to pay his debts now, though. He got paid. So we got the Raiders, and I am putting them up against the Vikings. I think this is it's difficult.
Raiders, Vikings. That's an interesting one.
Charlie says Trevor could play Amond. They do have similar facial bones, you know.
Yeah. Trevor One Eye. Yeah. Yeah. I like it.
I like it.
I like it. Vikings, Raiders. I'm going to go Vikings. Look. Brian Flores.
Yeah.
Amazing. Justin Jefferson, literally the best there is. That doesn't matter who's throwing to him, and that's just not a luxury that all teams have.
Might be Sam Darnold.
That said, it still might be
a lot of Sam buzz on the street.
Sam Darnold. I'm glad that the Vikings didn't come up before here because I don't know that I could have talked myself into picking a team that's deciding between Sam Darnold and JJ McCarthy even any higher than this. Frankly,
fair enough. I get it. Raiders are still on the board. Now we're entering the zone of sadness. Was that a movie? Zone of sadness.
Interest. Zone of interest.
It's not a zone of interest for a lot of casual NFL fans, but we talk about every team here on the Mina Kime Show featuring Lenny. The Raiders are still on the board, and I'm going to put them up against the New Orleans Saints.
Oh, interesting. I thought you were going to go Titans here.
I almost did. I pivoted.
Raiders and Saints are really close to me. I'll go Raiders. Yeah. I Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew is the quarterback room. Tough one, but I really I don't know. Antonio Pierce is like an X factor to me. He really is. And the Brock Bowers pick was one of my favorite picks of the entire draft. The defensive front was already stacked. You're adding Christian Wilkins to a front that has Max Crosby. Like,
it's a good
Raiders
front.
are an interesting team.
It's a good defense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Saints.
Yeah, you gotta start thinking about the Saints. Something a sentence that has not been said that much by many teams, many people this offseason. We're gonna go Saints v Titans here.
Titans. Yeah. Titans. I do not love Will Levis. I remain.
He feels like the Lannister cousin who gets killed in like episode 2. Let me recalibrate. Sorry.
He's more like, again, we're Team Black here, but when you're in the Black Council meetings on Dragonstone with Rhaenyra, and you're really confronting the fact that all the guys sitting around the table are from like pretty small houses that just happen to be close.
There's like one guy with the beard is always.
I'm not saying he's the Alfred Broom. Yeah, that's Alfred, Sir Alfred Broom. Yeah, I'm not saying Will Levis is Sir Alfred Broom. That would be too much. But I need a word stronger than confounded, like to describe the state I'm in still about the Mike Vrabel I just don't understand it. I'm not sure I ever will. But a lot of interesting ads, like adding Ridley, adding Boyd, adding Pollard, adding L'Jarius Sneed.
They're such a confounding team because they added all these like good players.
Yeah.
They seem to be believing in Will Levis, so we'll see. I think if Will Levis is good, that they could be fun. So the Saints remain on the board,
Yeah. Your beloved New
and
England Patriots are coming up next. I can feel
I'm
it.
bringing in the Patriots. I'm bringing
Yeah.
in Drake May. Did you see the clip of Drake May talking ball with Brian Dable and Hard Knocks? How many times do you think your boss Bill Simmons has shared that clip in his many group chats, some of which you and I are a part of because they spring up all over haphazardly out of nowhere with multiple names and you don't know all of them. But anyways, I'm sure it's a big clip in his world right now.
Yeah, the limit does not exist for how many times he's circulated that, I'm sure. I'm gonna go with the Pats. I'm gonna go with the Pats. Like we're pretty low here. I
We are
think this
low.
is a
27.
reasonable spot
27.
to put out a team that has this good of a defense. Like the defense is exceptional. So, whether it's Jacoby or Drake May, like no one's gonna be worse than Mac Jones. And the defense is still the
Sure.
defense.
Yeah.
So, and we're not like picking them at 12.
'Cause I love the justifications from people of their choices at this point in the draft are my favorite part of the show. Not the beginning when you're like the Ravens and the Chiefs and no, this is the best. Give me your defense of the Commanders.
Once you have to talk yourself into like the Giants at a certain slot, it gets grim quickly.
Speaking of, we're going
Okay.
Giants v Saints for 28. Saints fans are furious. It's at Mallory Rubin.
I will be going with the New Orleans Saints. I'm expecting a massive year from Chris Olave.
Oh, I have him on my Dynasty team. Love
Oh
him.
man, what a squad you've assembled.
Yeah, thank you. And I still was felled by I beat Danny Kelly and I lost to Nate Tice last year.
Mina, I am no longer invited to participate in fantasy football leagues with my friends or colleagues because I'm, quote, too competitive and not fun to play with.
I keep inviting myself on the Ringer Fantasy Show so that I can talk about beating Danny, and my requests have been denied for some reason. I don't know why. Okay. Saints still have some good players.
Yeah.
I think it's just an aging roster that needs a refresh. The Giants.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go division. Let's go Giants v Commanders.
Commanders.
Ooh, okay. That's kind of spicy. Explain yourself.
I am genuinely interested in and excited to see Jaden Daniels play quarterback. Like Daniels, Terry McLaurin could be special quickly. I'm interested to see what this Cliff Kingsbury offense looks like. I have fewer things that are drawing my interest for the Giants, though I will say I am enjoying this offseason Hard Knocks. I find it kind of riveting.
Yeah, I know. I got to take an L there because at the beginning I was like, this is propaganda. No, it's not. It's actually some of the most, you really get a peek behind the curtain at some stuff.
Yeah. I didn't think that it was going to be like a super compelling watch. But I've found myself pretty wrapped so far. Yeah. It's fascinating to get a glimpse into that part of the calendar and that part of the process.
All right. Giants
Yeah.
and their Hard Knock season stay on the board then.
Yeah.
Okay, no, I can't. Let's go Giants v Broncos here. We got 3 more spots.
Okay.
The final 3.
I'm going to go Broncos.
Wow. You were not high on the New York Giants.
I'm also not high on the Denver Broncos, just to be clear. Please let the record state that I'm also not high on the Denver Broncos. I cannot tell you how much Broncos football I've been subjected to as somebody who is married to a Denver sports fan.
Can you give us a replay of how he reacted for the Russell Wilson return game to Seattle? It was week 1 it was Russ's first game as a Denver Bronco. What was it like watching that with him? It was Thursday night or Monday night it was, I think, Monday night actually.
Yeah, it was, so a lot of like key Broncos games, like we actually haven't shared. For example, back in the day, the Mile High Miracle, when the Broncos and Ravens played each other in the postseason, we were living in New York at the time, and I took an Amtrak and went home to Baltimore to watch with my dad instead, because Adam and I like couldn't be in the same room. He treated that game like it was the Super Bowl. Like it was the most important thing that had happened in years. And I felt such a level of empathy and then pity for him throughout the season because he had really talked himself into Russ. So it breaks my heart to tell you that despite him being quite despondent about the state of the quarterback room and how the draft was shaking out and what it looked like was going to happen for the Broncos. I got to watch in real time as he like talked himself into Bo Nix, and it's been a journey. I'm thrilled to report that he has not ordered a Jarrett Stidham or Zach Wilson jersey. It's not gotten to that point of delusion, but I think on the one hand, he's like, how has this proud franchise fallen to such desperate?
Did you see him after the Dolphins? Was the Dolphins game like the red wedding in your household last year?
It was.
Yeah.
We were playing. We were playing Reigns of Castamere. Yeah, we were.
Okay, well, Giants.
Yeah.
I'd say that's at the end. I always say which fan base is likely to be the angriest. I think it might be the Giants, actually. Giants or Steelers, but that one's on me. That is on me. Yeah. Giants v Panthers for the penultimate spot in the power rankings. You could be spicy here.
Giants. Okay. Giants.
We have not, unfortunately, lifted the Carolina Panthers out.
Yeah, it's got to be the Giants, right?
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, I think so. Got to be the Giants.
Jags and Giants, I think, are likely to be the angriest.
The Giants have finished pretty low, though.
The Cowboys are 13.
The Giants have finished pretty low.
They've been low. Yeah. Cowboys, Giants, and Jags are the ones that are a little bit off consensus, I think, on your board. And then maybe Niners fans will be mad about the Ravens, but
well, I do it both because I believe deeply in my soul, and also because I feel like that's why I was invited here today. So,
Mallory, you were also invited because you are an amazing podcaster. Can you list all of your podcasts so that people can, if you didn't turn this off with the multiple House of Dragon illusions, then you probably want to hear more. So go check out Mallory's many shows.
Yeah, come on and listen to Talk the Thrones, which I have the pleasure of co-hosting with Joanna Robinson and Chris Ryan on Sunday nights immediately after House of the Dragon ends. So the episode is there for you on the Ringerverse YouTube channel, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. You can watch it, you can listen. And then House of R, which is a deep dive nerd culture podcast that Joanna and I co-host a couple times a week. So we have astonishingly long and hopefully comprehensive, in-depth, and illuminating House of the Dragon breakdowns. We're covering The Acolyte. We cover like whatever, whether it's Thrones, Rings of Power, Marvel, Star Wars, whatever nerd culture show, genre show is airing. We're breaking down in real time. So yeah, come check out the House of R. Check out the Ringerverse. And Mina, it was just an absolute pleasure and treat to be here with you today. Thank you for inviting me. I look forward to returning to talk about the Ravens hoisting the Lombardi Trophy. Thank you in advance.
Thank you, Mallory Rubin.